This is Sybert signing into Tiberian Dawn Remastered on the map Eye of the Storm. In the top left-hand corner as the tan nod, this is CampaignPlayer. I guess we'll see how good he is at multiplayer. In the bottom right-hand corner as the blue GDI, this is Saturn. Saturn and CampaignPlayer. This one was sent to me, so one of these guys sent it to me a long time ago, but of course local replay support did not exist a long time ago, so. And also I've been not casting a lot recently, so even though local replay support has been around for a little while now, I have not gotten to this game until just now. Eye of the Storm, I don't actually know if this map is still in the map pool. I know they changed it a couple of times as they were kind of fine-tuning the map pool for multiplayer and what people normally play. In this case, a little bit of a base creep with these Tiberian refineries for Saturn. CampaignPlayer, on the other hand, going right into the airstrip. So this is going to be a curious case of the player with good economy. By the way, this is pre-patch, so the airstrip is broken, which means the production sucks. But we're going to have to see if the faster economy beats out the faster war factory. For now, Saturn just sticking with the infantry. Single barracks production, bunch of rocket dudes running around the map, a couple of riflemen as well. But it's going to be straight into a little bit of bike buggy. Classic nod unit combo. Through 100 million years of Command and Conquer, has there been bike buggy produced by nod players? Or maybe just one buggy and then mostly bikes after that. Either way, bike buggy for our nod player. And of course, he's out of cash already, so we'll have to see how he chooses to expand out from here. He's still continuing to pump out bikes, which, again, kind of curious, but considering how laid back Saturn is being, that's actually not too much of a problem. So the economy a little bit slow to get rolling for CampaignPlayer, and because of the way that Tiberium harvesters refine their Tiberium, you know, depositing it over a period of time rather than dumping it all at once like in Red Alert, you do have these situations where the economy can get choked quite a bit, especially if you don't go big eco pretty much right from the get-go. And then, of course, as the Tiberium spreads out a little bit, ooh, this guy got pathed the wrong way. That may actually be his doom or his salvation, as the rocket trooper is going to be responding to this bike buggy threat by pushing it away just a little bit there. Medium tank as well, showing up for our GDI player. War Factory tucked all the way in the corner, hiding out next to the MCV, so this is not a forward War Factory, nothing like that. Just sticking with the 3 Tib refineries for now. Could go ahead and base crawl up to the north just a smidge more and then place a refinery somewhere on the edge of this field. That wouldn't be the worst thing. Wouldn't be a bad idea at all. Bikes going to be coming in here, rotating to the back a little bit here, the weakened bikes, just to make them survive a smidge longer. Cleans up, I think, one tank, and that was pretty much it. Fresh refinery in the north, going to be pretty much on that Tiberium field, and that's another thing about the economy in this game is you have to constantly be trying to shorten the route that your Tiberium harvesters are taking. And I mean, in this case, this Tiberium harvester ignoring all of this Tiberium that's close by and instead driving a little bit further to get that Tiberium, which is everyone's favorite thing about the game. I mean, that's why we all wanted to remaster it, is to see the harvesters drive farther than they need to be in glorious 4K. That was my favorite thing about it as a kid. But I digress. As a couple of more refineries coming up for both players. Lovely base crawl over to the right side of the map with these Tib silos, and that is just a great position for an expansion. Way over there on the right side of the map, you got this cliff which extends all the way to the edge of the map, which means this harvester is relatively safe. You have to drive quite a distance to be able to get that from Saturn's perspective. So CampaignPlayer finding a pretty good spot for that harvester to hang out, and a pretty good spot for that harvester to harvest away for quite some time. Quite a slow build-up from Saturn, just a couple of medium tanks rolling their way across the map. still continuing to pump out a lot of infantry over the course of this game. I guess not so much still continuing to, but pumping out a lot of infantry over the course of these couple of minutes as he's looking for, well, I guess just a really solid defensive posture. As you can see, not at all trying to move out across the map, not even really teching up. He's not going towards artillery or any kind of late-game options. Our Nod player, on the other hand, being a little bit more active with their forces, a little bit more aggressive, at least with this bike buggy squad in the south side of the map. Not necessarily doing all that much with it. There's a comm center going to be finally showing up for CampaignPlayer. Although we have seen a large number of games just completely skip the comm center. You pretty much just have these tier 1 kind of fights. Medium tanks versus bike buggies, stuff like that, and that's pretty much what players exist on. 2 refineries, and it looks like a 3rd refinery going to be getting dropped down relatively soon in that very northern Tiberian field for CampaignPlayer. Which you have to give it to CampaignPlayer. Ooh, lovely stealth tank. You have to give it to a CampaignPlayer, although apparently a CampaignPlayer doing pretty good in the multiplayer range. I know as a CampaignPlayer myself, I did not understand the idea of building multiple harvesters, so CampaignPlayer is doing much better than I was when I was strictly a CampaignPlayer. And of course, diving on the MCV, the bikes are going to be able to get it, albeit barely, and that is all they really needed to do. I don't think there's a, service depot or repair pad, whatever they call it, for GDI. So no rebuilding of that of that MCV. So that's it for the economy of Saturn. Saturn has got a decent number of harvesters, 5 in total, 5 refineries, but as we talked about earlier, he now has to drive so incredibly far to be able to actually refine any of that Tiberium that the economy is going to be quite weak. A couple of flame tanks showing up with these stealth tanks and the bike buggy here in the middle of the map for CampaignPlayer. Saturn ready to go, and honestly, CampaignPlayer rushing in there with a couple of flame tanks may be a good way to clear out all of this infantry. And I mean, for now, the infantry are actually just kind of camped out on the Tiberium, so that is not going to work out well in the long term. Stealth tanks taking a couple of shots at these GDI tanks for Saturn. Saturn with almost $3,000 in the bank, but not necessarily enough production to actually spend it. I do like this splitting up of the forces by Saturn. A little group here in the middle of the map, or a big group there in the middle of the map, and then a little group split off down to the south to potentially go for some kind of a flank or some kind of a dual-pronged attack. CampaignPlayer a little bit slow on the reaction there, and the flame tanks do deal with the majority of the infantry, but now it's just all tanks from our GDI player. Civilians rushing forward, and I guess they're going to try and do something, but really it's the obelisk that is doing the real damage here, that is putting out the real damage output onto this army. And once the obelisk goes down, there just isn't anything for CampaignPlayer to really deal with this army. Where is your bike buggy forces now? There is actually a Temple of Nod up there in the corner of the map. That was not going to be a refinery. I thought for sure it was going to be a refinery way up there in the corner, but no. Sneaky, sneaky Temple of Nod. And I guess that's it for CampaignPlayer. CampaignPlayer with not a lot of cash in the bank. I guess the production facilities, but not a lot of cash in the bank. And diving on that MCV ended up being a mistake in this case, because there just literally are no forces to finish the game off. And in this case, one obelisk may be the one central kind of point of the defense of CampaignPlayer, as he is desperately going to try and hold off against these tanks, just utilizing this obelisk. But the power plants are exposed, and Saturn will find a couple of soft targets here near the original main base of CampaignPlayer. 2 power plants do still remain, soon to be just 1 power plant, but it may actually be enough. The damage absorbed by the power plant will allow the bikes to rush in here and get the kill on the tanks. Now, it's not quite over yet. We have seen exactly this, a fire sale followed by a bum rush by one player and just gunning down building after building. It sometimes does work, but I think he probably would have needed to clean up both this power plant and the airfield with that previous attack so that he could have focused his efforts on the right side of the map after this. And from now on out, it'll probably be CampaignPlayer, as long as he doesn't mess this up, just slowly throttling the life out of Saturn. Saturn still has a decent amount of cash and production. So Saturn is not totally out of this yet, but Campaign Player, as long as he plays defensively, should be able to hold on. Hunting the Harvester is definitely a nice move, and he does have to be a little bit careful with all of this infantry swelling up around Saturn's forces. May actually need to pull some Harvesters off the line just to tank damage. We'll have to see how Campaign Player chooses to handle this engagement. Still, without a lot of cash in the bank, the production is a little bit lacking. Flame Tank does come out. A couple of bikes and a Flame Tank not actually engaging with this fight, and you either need to group all of your forces together so you've got maximum firepower, or draw them into the attack on this obelisk and try and use the obelisk to your advantage. But in this case, there actually isn't enough power, so it was the damage from earlier that was enough to knock out the power for Campaign Player. Goodbye obelisk, goodbye power plant, and the last couple of tanks will get eliminated. Can Saturn still pull this out? One tank not getting the memo, just deciding to drive further and further north. The last couple of buildings for Campaign Player over there on the right side of the map, but now no production. Now finally, Campaign Player has enough cash, but of course no production. And at this point, it may actually be best to skip the army and just try and bum rush the buildings and just go right for the kill that way. In this case, engagement there on the left side of the map not working out at all, and it's just going to be up to the bikes to try and rush forward here. They're going to overwhelm these tanks. It's 3 medium tanks guarding this war factory, and well, goodbye all of these tanks as they do go down. A couple of bikes also getting eliminated, and now the barracks going to be getting shut down. A little bit slow to react as Saturn is just going for the base trade, but 1 tank and 1 rocket infantry do survive. I think the buildings are maybe a little bit more spread out for Saturn, but Campaign Player may actually have the superior firepower with all of the bikes being able to move quickly from building to building, the buggies cleaning up the infantry next to them, and that may actually do it as just 1 refinery remains for Saturn. Campaign Player quickly shooting it down, and that will do it. A great finish there for Campaign Player as he manages to kill Saturn just a moment. Well, actually, no. He still had all of his buildings. None of these buildings went down at all. I thought Saturn might have been able to kill 1 or 2 of them, but no, it actually wasn't as close as I was thinking. Anyways, that will do it for this match. Quite a back and forth between these two players. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all very much for watching, and this is Sybert, signing out.